We'll start whining and people start needing something for tear ducts. Sniveling.
No, no whining.
You notice the box
That's
is
winning.
closest to you.
No, it says whining. All right. All rise
My goodness.
and recite with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and justice for all. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilor Pietzold?
Here.
Councilor Horsfall?
Here.
Councilor Hamblin?
Present.
Councilor Lean? Here. Councilor Eisner?
Here.
Councilor Cooper?
Absent.
Mayor King?
Here. Any changes to the agenda today?
No changes to the agenda, Mayor.
All right. Well, at this time, we would take public comment from anyone who would like to address the council on items not on the agenda.
I do.
She runs out.
You do, and then you run out?
Yes.
It's all part of the presentation.
Oh.
On behalf of the Sandy Chamber, we wanted to show Bill our appreciation. And
Bill who?
this is also
She needs to.
in remembrance of the longest ribbon cutting ever, I think, in the history of seeing. We brought you a picture from Imagine Anything Art Gallery.
Well, thank you.
This is for you.
Appreciate it.
Shake hands. Look over.
You're welcome. Thank you for all you do for us.
So I want to hear what's the longest ribbon cutting.
It took a little while before they were actually ready.
Oh.
I think it was 2 or 3 hours or
Oh, wow.
something. Yeah.
Lots of sales. They were doing good.
They were so busy selling their goods that
Oh, I see.
I couldn't pull them away from the cash register, so to speak, to have a ribbon cutting.
All right.
Anyone else? Okay, up first then, ordinance 9.12.20.
Good evening, council members, mayor. As you can see, this is basically a housekeeping type of an issue for mainly keeping up with the Joneses, for lack of a better term. The Oregon revised statutes have changed. Governor Brown had signed a House bill back in August of 2017, which the law came into effect January 1 of 2018. Since then, officers have been using that ORS for any citations needed, and what that law changed was the age someone can purchase and possess tobacco products, and it covers inhalants as well. So in our code, it had the age of 18 in it, so it's not used by the officers, it's not needed, and those citations still do go to municipal court.
So we're just looking for removing this section of the Sandy Municipal Code.
Is it removing it or changing it?
Removing
It's
it.
just removing it. We don't need it any longer.
It looks like there's a, the sentence says, I make a motion to remove section 9.12.20 from the Sandy Municipal Code.
I'll second that.
Well, we need to have a first call for the first reading of
Oh.
ordinance
Yeah.
number 9.12.20.
Actually, the number of the
Of Title
ordinance, the number of the ordinance is number
38.
2018-38.
Okay,
Where
We
do you
had
see
some
that?
numbering
at the
issues.
top. Well, I'll call for the first reading then of ordinance number 2018-38. By title only, please.
Ordinance number 2018-38, removing section 9.12.20 of Title IX in the Sandy Municipal Code.
And then we have a motion by Carl and a second by Jeremy to remove ordinance, or to approve ordinance 2018-38, removing section 9.12.20 of Title IX in the Sandy Municipal Code. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And could we get the second reading of ordinance 2018-38 by title only, please?
Ordinance number 2018-38, removing section 9.12.20 of Title IX in the Sandy Municipal Code.
I make a motion that we approve the ordinance of removing section 9.2.20 of the Sandy Municipal Code.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jeremy, second by Scott, that we approve the second reading of ordinance 2018-38, removing section 9.12.20 of Title IX in the Sandy Municipal Code. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that moves us along to ordinance 2018-08.
So is.
Or is it actually, it's 2018-22?
Yes. We had some little
Clerical errors?
kerfuffle with, well, some issues with the numbering in the software.
Yeah.
So council had asked quite some time and had been researching the possibility of doing some sort of utility fee with prior city manager Seth Atkinson. And with the purchase of the Sandy Community Campus, losing the Estacada contract and some other things, when I picked this ball up and started moving forward with it, we started doing some outreach regarding the Sandy Community Campus, and some of that outreach that we did was we were getting so much positive feedback about a utility fee that the comments were also about parks and police. We do have operational needs that the general fund is not covering or could benefit from having this additional funding source for parks and police, as well as the Sandy Community Campus. I did a breakdown schedule for you, and we did, when we talked to citizens, it was mostly Tanya and I that did the outreach at the Sandy Mountain Festival, at the Music Fair and Feast, at the open houses, things of that nature. Folks were very receptive to having some sort of fee in the $5 to $8 price range, particularly going for police, community center, and parks. So rather than just writing this for the community center as the original thought was, I went ahead and wrote it for all three, given that the positive feedback from the community was supportive of that. And I did do a financial breakdown for you that would show you what the revenue streams would look like for each of those departments or line items. This is particularly helpful for parks in that, other than some parks SDCs, which we can't use for just everything. This does give us some additional revenue source. As you know, we have a lot of parks to maintain, and we have a lot of equipment that needs to be refurbished and no real revenue stream to do that. Additionally, with the community center, that's the Sandy Community Center, or the pool. The current cost of running that pool right now is running us around $300, Tyler, an annual, $300,000 annually. And so to offset some of that expense out of the general fund, this would help with that. And then, you know, police, we always need additional there. So this is the breakdown and the recommendation based on the citizen input that we got. I do have figures if you want to explore other dollar amounts, but I wanted to get this piece cleaned up and done before my departure so that we had some closure on this topic.
Any
As I recall,
discussion?
yes, as I recall, it was $5 that we were looking at for the community center that would offset or at least balance out that expenses that we were going to be needing, because it was not, there was no operational income other than the fees as you walked in the door. And I was looking for what the difference is from where we think we are at this point with the income from the walk in the door kind of fees compared to what we need. And is it in that $100,000 range that the $2 is going to be giving us?
So it's costing us roughly 300,000 annually to run the pool with the current staffing right now. Do you have the figures?
What's our income from that?
If I remember correctly, we budgeted about 88,000
Revenue.
for this second year in the biennium in walk-in-the-door revenue. So this utility fee would not close that gap entirely.
But
Mhm.
it's important to point out, Counselor Exner, that we are running this as a temporary facility right now, and that we're not running all of the servicing that we could because we just have temporary staff, part-time
Mhm.
staff.
Okay.
And we don't have a good handle on all of the revenue stream that we will be getting once the facility is upgraded and running at full capacity. So it would be difficult to say that this is what our revenue will be moving forward. I think it will be more than that moving forward when we can operate at full capacity.
Revenue as in the walking the door
Yes,
revenue.
correct.
So we're somewhere close to $100,000+ short if we were to look at today's dollars. Is that right? 88.
That would be correct. If you were looking at the revenue stream that we have currently, yes.
What is the anticipated date for it to be fully operational?
So we're working with OPSIS right now. The next logical step to keep the pool from failing would be to do the HVAC and the plumbing, because that's the crux of the problem with the pool right now. So they're working on final schematics for us of that, which we have to have in order, and they're gonna be working with Energy Trust for us. But we have to have those schematics so Energy Trust can then show where they can help and chip in. So I anticipate that should probably be wrapped up in a couple of months, and then we'll be able to schedule a start date for that.
Thank
So,
you.
and I believe that work's gonna take about a year.
But the urban renewal dollars, what would pay normally, I would expect to see paying for those HVACs. It would be the difference in our current costs per month to operate those, and difference for that for the new ones, new HVACs. That would be our savings. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, I think that there would be some savings there in heating costs and in plumbing
Okay,
and
right.
also in the maintenance pieces. There are a lot of different options for filtration and things that will reduce our price or our cost. Maybe not initially, but over the long term. But, you know, we're not operating all of the programming that we could right now either. We didn't want to get too far into this knowing that we were going to be shutting down. So we did temporary part-time staffing, and we didn't staff it, I won't say fully, but we didn't add as much staff as we could have operating full-time for that reason.
So how'd you plan on making the difference up? It's $120,000, $130,000 difference between now and the end of this year. It's a biennial, so that's 200.
We've already taken care of that with a supplemental budget. We did that before council.
That was what happened
Yeah.
a couple weeks
So
ago.
we're good to go through the biennium, through this biennium,
with this,
without this,
without this.
correct. Yeah,
Oh, I thought we had to have this to make it balance out.
we do not.
Oh. Interesting.
No, this is for future,
Correct. This is so once
Future
we get
costs.
the doors back open, we have enough revenue saved up to operate without dinging the general fund so much.
So what are we short then? I thought we were short 100 and something.
We're not
thousand.
short right now, no.
But for the upcoming year is what you're saying though, right? Is gonna need that 100.
No, what I'm
$2
saying
end of
is
the
that in the
biennium,
next
so-
budget cycle,
all this year and all
your
next.
options are either to supplement the cost of operating the pool with $300,000 out of the general fund for each year, so $600,000 in the biennium, or do less out of the general fund for the next biennium in the budget because we have this revenue.
So did you say that when we do the HVAC work and the plumbing thing, that the pool would be shut down for a year?
Possibly up to a year, yes.
So I just go back, because I was on the committee of the finding out solutions on how to do, be able to, what do we do with the pool and how do we fund it and how do we fund the thing? And we came up with urban renewal for that. And we came up with, and Seth was here at the time, and we came up with the $5, you know, that we did that survey and they had this $5, $7, $3, and we landed on $5 at the time. At that time, you said that before taking over the pool, we wanted to put this in place for a year to be able to have a year in the bank per se for operations at that $5. And we were factoring in that we would be able to bring in about $250,000, which lines up with the numbers you see there if you took the $2 and $3 from police and community. And then the rest of that, because we were factoring in about $250,000 to $300,000 to operate the pool from all the studies we had done from all the other pools and information we had gotten from the school district at the time, to pay for the operations of it, so that it would be, you know, not coming out of the general fund, but be coming out of that fee, and so that $5 there, and then with upgrades, you know, that would decrease heating and the pool and those type of efficiencies through the process of doing that. We haven't, obviously, and this is why it's coming in front of us, but at that time that was a total of all $5 going to the pool and community center. That was going to be part of the pool, not to police or parks. Now the way I read it, you know, police is getting the $3 and pool, community center / community center $2 and parks $2. So it's now down to $103. In the police side of the budget, though, that you want to add to that, what my understanding with when we started the Estacada thing, that when we did that, you brought to us when you were the chief, if we were to lose that contract, the lowest people on the totem pole would be laid off on that. Coming back, though, we've had a retirement and another SRO that went in place, and I believe there was 2 positions over there coming back. So in losing that, how are we incurring more costs now for losing the Estacada contract if we've replaced people that were leaving our new position being paid by the school district?
Yeah, we didn't, and this is not to replace funds that are short right now in police. This is based on the input from the citizens that they would support the pool thing, but they would really like to see support for police because they felt that that was more of a priority, and that it came across as, and I'll paraphrase, it's like, I could support this for that.
Okay. Because the way I read it, I thought it was because of the loss of the Estacada contract.
Well, that was
in there. It was written in what I read.
Yeah,
so.
when I originally wrote this, it was some time ago in preparation, and then we decided to go back out and do some more community outreach before we launched it. So I just didn't update that language in the staff report, but the supplemental budget, the retirement, the pre-retirement packages that we offered, and then additionally, we did have an officer move off to OSP. The chief's trying to fill those positions. I know that in the next biennium, he wants to fill the lieutenant's position again and be manned with lieutenant to sergeants, and then replace the officer that we lost to OSP, so we're back to full strength. So we have some savings right now to offset the Estacada issue through the biennium. But this will help moving forward into the next biennium, perhaps even enough to add another officer on top of our current staffing.
I have a question or two. I like how it's presented as far as going on to a, like the utilities. Would it be based on, like, I'm just thinking of my examples, like perhaps $3 went to the water bill, $2 went to the sewer, $2 went for internet.
Everything
How
is
would they
on
do
one
this?
bill. All of those services are on one bill, so it would just be one $7 charge added to the utility bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have another question?
The other one, I don't have my utility bill in front of me, but what do you think the average is that Sandy pays a person would pay for a utility?
I would have
Is
no
it
idea.
$250
Tyler?
a month,
It
$150?
really,
Yeah,
there's a
obviously
lot of
depends on,
variables. How big a
Family
household,
size and house size and all
Yeah.
of that.
and if you have sandy net and water,
Mhm.
or just water, or just sandy net,
Because not everyone has sandy net, so that's
Yeah.
only if you take it. So.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
it-
with
it's
this,
really
regardless of
difficult
your
to say.
bill, everybody's getting $7 more a month times 12 months.
Mhm.
So it's a substantial amount of money. So I've got a number of thoughts swirling on this. First thing is, I don't know that there's a need to rush other than to build a rainy day. And I also, I guess I have concerns when we pitch an idea in theory versus when you actually go to implement it, and the feedback opportunity when there's an actual implementation. Because I think folks speak a little different tone when you show them a cool idea and say, what do you think of this? Would you give us money to do this? They go, yeah, this is so cool. But then you go, hey, we're going to add $7 to your bill every month. Are you cool with that? And we're going to get a whole different tone going into that. I also think we probably, so higher education does this too. It's called tuition increases, but it's not a sustainable plan. It's a one-year plan. We don't do this for 10 years down the road. We do this to take care of higher education price index. This seems a little bit premature in the fact that we're good through the biennium, but I also don't see it as a long-term sustainable plan. And that's the part I think that I'm probably a little bit more concerned about making a decision on this tonight, knowing it just doesn't feel like it fits into a more long-term sustainable.
You will notice, though, that there is a caveat in here,
Mm-hmm.
that at each biennium, it's evaluated by the budget committee. So ongoing need, reduction could all be discussed based on how the budget's looking at budget building time. So,
But you gotta start with your base first. And I think if we're evaluating and managing our base, and we know we're efficiently using that money, we just did transfers to cover all these expenses. Now we're generating new revenue without even looking at what our base budget is for that period of time. So we're planning expansion growth, and I don't like to do that off a 1 year preparation. I like more strategic planning, more strategic thought going into it.
okay,
So,
I was thinking to myself, we had talked a lot when we did those surveys, and I wasn't involved in the mountain festival things that you were involved in, but I did remember a lot of the conversations we did earlier than that about whether it would be, I think we talked about $4 and $5, $7 and $10, and as we went up, obviously the dissatisfaction would be more as you went up that, and I thought that $7 was pretty close to that top of the line. So to me, $5 sounds really like a very reasonable amount of money, and $5 towards our community center would make some sense for me. I really want to be able to balance that. I'm really in favor of making that something that we can keep that general fund dollars available for other things, and being able to look at that. And I get the part about it not being sure about where we stand with how much that income is going to be versus revenue. But I see us whittling away on the general fund dollars to the tune of 300 and something thousand, and only coming back with 80, 90,000 in walk through the front door, another $100,000. So I think. Well, tell me, what does $5 get us in terms of income?
well, and this can be whatever you want it to be. This is just a starting point. So we
Right.
can edit this, that's not a big deal. So if we did $5, depending on how you broke it down, the total of $5 is $258,000 annually.
And with the 90 grand, you're fairly close to what we think at this
88,
point
mhm.
would give us income.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess I'm a little inclined to go with Councilman Hamburg over there, and that we have a good number. Did I call you the right name down there? John.
Hamburger, you just call me that guy.
Hamburger.
That guy.
Councilman Hamburger. That there was, it's a lighthearted night, right?
yes.
Okay. That the police are in good shape in terms of what's coming up for the next year. Until we go through our budget process, there's some of that to be
Not
thought
just
about.
for the next, just through June. They're set through June.
Just through the end of the biennium.
Just through June.
But we do have a planning process for our budget coming up
Correct.
at the same time.
That is correct, yes.
And, yeah, I get the part about parks. I hear a lot about parks being part of the concern, getting us to a place where we can improve our parks. But I think we need to think about how we should spend that money. And I'm inclined more and more to go for giving the community center a full ride, so we balance that out. And then thinking our way through the police and the park side of the world. And I guess that's kind of where I'm thinking more of. I'm really in favor of funding our facilities. I don't think we should go into the debt for them. We need to find a way to make it right. So, kind of how I'm thinking.
And to answer your question, the average utility bill is $70.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's about a 10% increase.
So I'm
Yeah.
supportive of all of these
That's
for the
excellent.
total of $7 because all of our programs need more support. And as we go into our budget process, we're going to need that general fund to cover what we have to do, not even including the new sewer work, et cetera. So I think we're short-sighted to drop below that value. If anything, I would take parks off if we're going to $5, but I'd rather see 7 for all 3 programs.
I'd have to agree with you, Jan. While there are some unknowns with the pool and the community center, the needs for the police department are real, and they're known. Parks as well. I mean, we've had the outreach. The council has agreed to this in the past. I mean, without the police and the parks on it, but at a $5 rate, and I don't really see an issue with us holding back. I especially like the fact that for anyone who is unduly affected by this, there is an appeals process and exclusions for ADUs and hardship cases. So the people who cannot sustain this can opt out of it in a way.
I'd like to hear the chief too, because he understands what his needs are gonna look like as we move forward.
Good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to give you an example of some of these big ticket items that we're faced with now, and we're gonna be faced with in the next biennium. We just replaced the computers, and that was close to $100,000. These are, and also we're needing cameras for the rest of our vehicles, which was for, as part of a council goal. And that's really, and we weren't able to finish that project. That's another big ticket item that's, do we budget for that, or we have the money for that? Also, we've been exploring body cameras for all the officers, and these are expensive as well. And we need a mechanism for taking care of these big ticket items that we're faced with nowadays, and we just don't have that. These are high dollar amount items that we need to be finishing these projects, and we've been putting it off because we don't have the funding to do those things. And also being able to use some of these funds for other things as well, the way it's written. The possibility of another officer, that's another goal as well. So in the past, we just haven't had this. I just think that having this funding in place will really help us, for one thing, finish projects that we started a long time ago. And then another is having that line item and that money in there when something like these computers or something goes down, whether it be vehicle related, technology related, that everything is just so expensive now, it's hard to pay for.
The next
We end up
800
having to do a
megahertz
supplemental
radio
budget
system upgrade. Yeah.
for something which is something that it's unfavorable. And I don't know if you guys have any specific questions for me about some of those items, I can certainly try to answer those.
I have some questions on what are other communities out there doing for supporting their police departments?
This right
There-
here.
actually,
As
there's-
utility fees, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I know of levies, I know of just out of the general fund, I
Yeah.
know of those type of
Now,
things.
some
So
cities are calling it, and Kim would know about this as well, they're calling it different things, maybe, whether it be a public safety fee, but it's related to their, the same things what we're trying to accomplish here. And, what is it?
Gresham has one exactly like this that's also $7 a month for these three topics?
It's police, fire, and parks, so I just moved
Yeah.
here 2 months ago from Gresham. It was $15 every billing cycle, which was every other month, so $7.50 a month for these same services.
And I want to say that I think it's Kaiser, and I'm not positive, but one of the police departments down in that area had used this public safety fee to hire 5 additional officers because they just didn't have that money in the general fund to do that. But I mean, that's just an example of what some people are using it for.
Most of the Clackamas community, or Clackamas agencies, you've talked to the chiefs
Yeah,
about this,
yes,
right?
and a lot of them have this already. Sandy doesn't have this in place, obviously, but.
But Chief, do you have enough officers currently to be able to staff all of your shifts completely at this point?
Let me answer that
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
So, when I took over as chief, and I know his goal as well, is that we still are running one officer part of the shift. We
Okay,
really
that's what I
need,
asked.
we really need to have double coverage minimum
That's what I
staffing,
asked.
and we don't have that.
I thought bringing in more of the officers from the Estacada,
We lost
Run.
2 though.
I knew that, but I
Yeah.
thought we had one extra, but that we don't. One more than we had before. We're down to what we had before. We lost 2 and gained 2.
We gained,
Well,
we
kinda
gained
confusing.
3, lost 2, and then added an SRO,
Okay?
so.
But you're still short of 1 shift. Is that right?
No, we were never at that.
We were never at
Because they
that.
were never here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we've never
we're
had
we're
that.
still
So we're
short. I
plus
guess that's the
one.
question.
We're
Yeah.
+1 from what we were before the Escada contract.
Well,
School
not,
district is +1.
yes,
School district.
So we get them, do we get them over the summers?
correct.
Yes, we do.
Mhm.
So we get them.
But we pay for them over the summer.
Yeah.
We do get them over the summer, but we still haven't achieved that goal of having at least 2 officers on 24 hours a day. There's still a window of time there where there's only 1 person here. So, and that's been a long-term goal.
Because it would be great to have 2 officers on full-time, because one of them could spend a little more time on traffic, which has clearly been an issue.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm actually glad you brought that up, because we had reinstated the traffic position, which has
Mhm.
been
Right.
we have a real need for
Big
that
thing,
in the city.
yes.
And that person is being pulled back to patrol because of the loss of
Mhm.
Okay.
our officer to OSP for the time being. We have
Right.
to do that because obviously you have to fill those patrol slots first before you can have those specialty positions.
Mhm.
And the traffic position is important to us, and that will come back when we're able to hire another person.
So this $3 fee will give us that extra officer for completing all our shifts, do some of your work with your radios and some of the other ticket items you were talking about?
Yeah.
Or come close to pay more or
It
not
will
enough?
come close to. I haven't worked out exactly how it's
I
going to
don't
be
even
used
know
because
numbers.
obviously no, but the goal is to finish those projects that were, were council goals as far as the camera systems, the rest of the cars, exploring the body camera option that we really need to look into, and getting that completed first. But yes, another officer would be nice, and this could be used for that.
Okay.
Would another officer be available by spring, summer of this year, possibly?
With the timeline, we're trying to get a person on board by spring, but that will take quite a while before, depending on who we get.
If it's a lateral, it'll be
Yeah.
quicker.
Right.
If it's a
It would
new hire,
typically
they
be
gotta go
quicker,
through the academy.
6
Yeah.
months to a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a long process, but yeah, we're trying to hurry that up as quick as we can. That actually, the announcement should go out by the end of the month, I hope, I'm working with our HR.
So you would do that otherwise, whether we gave you the money or not? You would
Yeah.
still have an officer?
I'm still gonna replace the officer, yes,
Okay,
that we lost at OSP.
okay. Well, I gotta tell you, I'm being driven to go for the police fee. I just, I think it's crucial that we have full staffing on all of our shifts. We've been without since I've been on council, and it is not a good thing. It's not a
We've never
safety
had it.
issue. It is a safety issue, I mean, to me.
Yeah, it is a safety.
The-
And
the sheriff has
I
been
don't
always been our
disagree. I don't
second.
disagree. I think the how we get about the funding process. I'm reading about Gresham's, and there's this $750 per month that went into place back in 2012, and they actually use their finance committee, which is like our
Which is what this
budget
is.
council.
Mhm. That's what this one does.
Why they use that to actually manage to make the decision on, and that's the process that they use. So my idea with this is that we actually wait till budget time, don't do it now, but actually use this as a new revenue generating idea during budget time after we actually evaluate where our budgets are. Because the reality is we don't know where our budgets are. We made ends meet. I can tell you the pool, and you know this as well too, the pool is going to cost us money every year. What we don't want to do is a bait and switch for the community to where they've seen plans or drawings of what the future is going to be with the Sandy Community Campus, and that this is going to get us there, because this is covering operational costs, covering operational costs for police, and it's also doing the same for parks. And I just don't want to send ourselves in a death spiral of increasing this fee year after year after year. And I think we really have to be cognizant of that. I'm going to be a payer into this as well too, $7 a month. Everybody's going to be paying into it. I think the process on how we make that decision, make that determination, I think needs more community input before we just push it. And again, like last time, I'm only one vote, so you can think differently on this as well too.
That's one more than me. So.
But I really think we just need to be cognizant of the road we're traveling down. We do this with tuition, and when we do proposals for tuition, we say $7 was our tuition increase last year. We propose out a $7 increase to make ends meet year after year after year, and you do the math on that for a student, it's a huge impact. And yes, there is a variance process potentially for this, but this gets real expensive because costs are not going down. And I think we really have to look at that base budget. We are not in a time of extra money lying around for folks to be able to just dedicate to us balancing our budget.
I understand what you're saying, but because we can address this in every 2-year period anyway, I think that we still have that ability.
That, and the community has spoken. They want the pool. And our outreach already has said they want to support the police department and the parks. My feeling is maybe we should pass the first reading and then have a second reading next month so that more people hear about what's going on and hear it's imminent. And then we can have public hearing at the next meeting and get input from the community. If there's that big a concern that their feelings are actually changed on what they want versus what they've already spoken.
I'll remind council too, just informational, that you have traditionally held the cost of things extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that does have an impact at some point.
One of the other things that we have done as a council is said that we would like to see more smaller incremental increases than fewer larger. And I know that is in my mind too. And I know when we did the last water increase, I can't recall the amount of increase, but I know when I saw that on the bill, I've got several people telling me that was a big increase. And I think it was something like $6, $6.25, I think, when we did it before. We're talking $7 here.
Those 10% increase.
Yeah. I guess I would go with the reading tonight and getting another reading in the next council meeting in a month and find out what that response is from the public and see where we go from there.
I'll have to say, I've done a lot of thinking about this over the weekend, and as I go running and, do a lot of thinking and have time to do that, and conflicted, right, in a lot of different ways. I appreciate the comments that I've heard today, and hearing what other cities are using this for. It's nice to know here with Gresham, we're not Gresham, we never said we have been like Gresham, but in other communities like that. I think I hear, John, your point with how it's presented at colleges, and I think that in some ways it's very similar, but in other ways it's a little bit different, because tuition, it kind of happens at a time, not every month, and whether that's easier or more painful to accept. So I think it's a little bit different. I guess I come back to, we were supposed to have implemented this a year prior to just for the pool, I'm just talking about just the pool part of it, implement a year before taking over the workings of that pool to have that kind of in the bank for that. So whether or not we know that there is this deficit with the pool, we had planned for this and it would have covered that, and we can move these things around. I would say that I came into the meeting thinking one thing, and maybe I'm coming out of the meeting thinking something different. So, get it going now would be better to be able to build that up as we can change that allocations around, I guess, at the budget cycle as well. And now you wouldn't, very cautious of doing such a thing, but it's a possibility because written into the ordinance. So I agree, Bill. We have 2 readings of that, and this is probably the easy reading because you won't be here for the pitchforks at the next
There is
one.
that too.
I was thinking that when you said that.
But just the
But-
fact that we'd be concerned about pitchforks at the next meeting
No,
and people coming in to say
yeah, I
something.
understand. Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
we
think
always-
that's enough to at least acknowledge there's
That-
probably
that's
going to
enough.
be, there was some positive feedback when it was
I
a
agree.
concept, and it's going to change when it's a real bill.
And I agree. And we had done the scientific study out there, what they call a scientific. It's hard to get people to answer the phones anyways and take a survey, but one that back then maybe was a little bit more credible than if you were doing one today. But we had that in there for that $5. Now the outreach, appreciate the outreach. But I don't think it hit the full swath of the community as a whole because, it's kind of those people around that area getting it versus the scientific one. But it does have some value to it. So anyways, I would go along with the first reading.
I don't think we're going to see pitchforks.
It was a joke. about
I know,
that,
but
so.
we did have a fairly intensive survey. Admittedly, it's a few years back, but even at $7, we had a majority of people saying yes, they would pay that $7. I
We
think it
were
was
approaching 70%.
not at $7.
At 5.
At $5.
Yeah.
At $5, yes. At $7,
But I think even at
still over
$7
50%.
was over 50%.
It was over 50.
Correct. I
For-
remember the
for
same numbers you
what, though?
did.
Because I think that's the piece that's the key to it, is what were we asking them that they pay $5 more for?
It was the pool.
At the pool,
That was the pool,
Pool,
at
yeah.
that
So we
that
can't
particular
really use
survey.
that as like here's the stakeholder feedback that 70% said they'd be okay with $5. That 70% said they'd be okay with $5 for the pool.
Yeah.
But we're adding parks and we're adding police to this. And I don't know that we've gotten the feedback from them from that scientific study
Yeah.
that says that. And I don't know that people are going to be majorly opposed. I just think rather than us just making a decision on this tonight, we need to have some more feedback opportunity about what it really means. I mean, I think the 10% increase to the average bill is substantial. I think folks should know about that before we just voted it into place. So I like the idea of a feedback period, or at least
Yeah.
pushing it out till January to have some more opportunity for dialogue.
When you have a second reading, does it have to follow the next one? Is there a timeline on that second reading? Could that second reading actually be a month and a half versus just 2
Yeah, it's
weeks?
just got to be
or
at a future
a future
meeting. So it could be at a time if you're choosing.
We just need a unanimous to do back-to-back.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And we can have a unanimous and still
And
say
still
we
choose
want
not
to
to have a
Right.
second one,
Right.
yes.
And anytime after January works good for Bill and I.
I figured it would.
And Scott, too.
And Scott, too. You'll
I know-
come back
Scott,
for it,
too.
right?
I know Chief Roberts had one quick comment, and then I want to, before you do anything, just make one other comment as well.
Okay.
And in reference to Counselor Hamblin, I also, when we did this supplemental budget, that created, I get what you're saying about we don't know what the budget's gonna be like when we get there now, we're gonna start that process soon, but when we had the supplemental budget, I already have another debt service.
Yeah, that did
So-
create debt service.
So,
Correct.
Mm-hmm. You have to
And
pay
hers
that back.
increase-
what's coming, I have another debt service that I'm gonna have to deal with in my
Back, yeah.
budget coming up. So if you look at it that way, I'm already starting out in not a good
Yeah.
spot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I do not see or I haven't seen, since I've been here, that huge increase in my share of the general fund. And so I'm a little skeptical as to how we're gonna work all this out without putting something like this through, when you're starting out already with another debt service that I didn't have before. I realized that we had to do that was necessary, but I'm just trying to think to the future too, and not be caught, when it's budget time and not knowing how I'm gonna pay for anything, so. I just wanted to throw that out there too and let you be aware of that. I'm sure you already were, but that's something that is, weighs heavily on me too, and I gotta figure out how we're gonna pay for that too.
Out of our City of Sandy's budget, how much of that is going to the police department?
I think we're right about 82%. Is that about right?
Like 78 of the property tax.
Okay, all right.
Which is lower than most
It is lower
cities.
than most
Which is
cities.
lower than most cities.
No.
Yeah.
I have a question that's with the, with pushing something or applying this type of utility fee, do you feel that it would hold off or reduce the risk of raising a bond in the next few years? Would this be a good substitute instead of coming back and asking the city for a very large
Well,
property
what you could do
tax?
is if you're going to do a bond or a recreation district, something of that nature, you could remove this if that passes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, a
So-
bond would be very, very difficult because we are
Yes.
very close to being in compression. So even if the voters voted for a bond,
Mm-hmm.
you would not be able to collect it.
Okay, thank you.
Another
Probably
bond
do
thing
better
would
with
be.
the recreation district.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's got to be a
Because it's
fee
spread
of
across.
some sort.
They're just, the public isn't presented with, we just raised this and now we're asked to raise this again
Right.
for the same potential.
Mhm.
Right.
And part of
thinking.
that process of informing the voters on what that would, like the recreation district, what would that would do, and removing this could be a piece of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
David?
I just wanted to say, since you're proposing a new fee anytime under Oregon law, that you either
Public.
create a new fee or you amend a fee, you need to take public testimony.
Public comment?
So
Okay.
just wanted to be sure that didn't get.
Oh, yeah. We were going to get to that.
Thank you.
So are we pretty much done with council discussion at this time?
I am for me.
Okay. Well, then I would invite any of the public here to come up and have some input on this proposed fee. Do we need to actually open a public hearing?
No, just
Okay.
as long as you invite testimony, that's fine.
Okay. No, Ernie, you've already testified.
Thanks a lot for listening.
Okay, hearing no one from the public, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Okay, public hearing closed at 7:47.
I'll move that we approve the first reading of ordinance 2018-22. I found it.
I'll second.
Motion by Carl, second by Jan, that we approve first reading of ordinance 2018 well, we haven't had a first reading yet, have we?
No.
We
Can
need to call
we
for the first
include-
reading by title only.
Can we include in the motion that we're gonna delay the second reading until January?
Delay it to
Don't-
I would amend my
You
motion.
could do a motion to do that after.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
really
Oh,
need
did
that.
you? Okay.
I don't think it needs to be part of the motion, but,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we need the first
Yes, sir.
reading by title only, please?
Ordinance number 2018-22, an ordinance amending Title III of the Sandy Municipal Code by adding section 3.34, establishing a fee on all utility bills for the purposes of offsetting the cost of certain public services, specifically police, parks, and pool.
Okay, then we have a motion by, who was, Jeremy?
No, me.
Carl?
Carl.
And second by Jan, that we approve the first reading of ordinance 2018-22, an ordinance establishing a public services fee. I'm going to read the abbreviated version. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, and we will set the second reading out for some time in the future.
I'd like to
Do
say
you want to have a
specific
motion for
time.
that?
A specific
Or
time.
Specific time?
Middle of January? What's our
January
middle?
21st,
21? Is that what it is? Okay.
so we have a 7th and 21st,
And
but
that's the 22nd.
22nd?
Yeah.
Yeah,
21st
is a blue-
holiday.
Blue Day, it must be a holiday.
Okay.
MLK.
I'll make a motion that we put it out to the second reading to the 22nd of January.
Second.
Motion
need
by
motion.
Carl, second by Scott, that we set the second reading for January 22nd, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we need to do a motion on that?
Yeah, I don't think
I don't
so.
think we do. It was fun still.
Bill just wanted another motion in there. Get his
All right.
quota in for the month.
Andy, Resolution 2018-39, Transit Asset Management Plan. Or TAMP.
Yeah, it's another one of those TAMS plan, they keep calling it. Good evening. So the staff report, what you have in front of you, just to summarize, in 2015, the FTA estimated that there was anywhere between 50 to 80 billion dollars in a backlog of maintenance for public transit. So therefore, in 2016, they published a rule that anyone that was receiving federal transit funds would be a part of a transit asset management plan. The plan basically puts before transit agencies definition for what they consider a state of good repair. Anyone in the plan is to come up with a system for rating your asset so that you can maintain proper condition. And this allows the federal government then to have a better, more organized system of prioritizing the worst equipment and replacing it with funding. I will say that Oregon has done this already. We already report to ODOT as to our asset management and our condition. The only real difference for this is that Oregon had to come up with a plan. Any agency that has 100 or fewer vehicles is part of Oregon's group plan, and they report to the federal government on our behalf. And we now report not just on vehicles or facilities which has federal funding to it, but anything we own. So we have 2 vehicles that Sandy owns, and it was not funded with federal funds. In the past, we did not report on the condition of those assets. With this, we will be required to report on everything. I actually agree to this because if I have a vehicle that wasn't funded with federal funds, but then I need to replace it, and I'm looking for federal funds, I would like to be able to show the condition of that asset and why I'm replacing it. So I actually think it's a good idea to have all of our assets. You'll see actually the plan is in here. I've attached it for you. It came out in late October. I didn't want to come before you without a plan, so you would have an idea of what we were signing on to. Although if we want to continue receiving federal funds, we're required to be a part of this plan. We are a shining example in this plan on page 11, in case you didn't read that far, and also on page 43.
There's 2 pictures.
Facility,
Yeah.
as pictures in the plan. Just to give you an example of what this does, I believe it's page 20. You'll see where the state has already gone through, and the state has for about 4 or 5 years now given us a matrix that we use to assess the condition of our vehicles, and they've used that to prioritize funding already. So they're a step ahead of the federal government on this one. So you'll see the City of Sandy vehicle listed as a #1 priority on page 20 because we've reported for a while that it is, by the time it's replaced, it'll hit its useful life and it's having some maintenance issues. So I've been reporting on the condition, page 20, on the condition of that vehicle for the past, every quarter for the past couple of years. So the state then can use that to prioritize where those funds go the next grant cycle. And later, I will be asking you to replace this vehicle with a grant that we were awarded.
Very good.
I was looking at this chart that was part of the plan when I read it. See if I can find page 62 of 191. And it shows that for Sandy that 8 of our 13 buses are either poor or marginal. So I would just acknowledge to the rest of the council that we need to start addressing that after we took away some of your contingency. We need to really look at some of the capital improvements that need to be made.
Thank you. I will say that I did just recently was awarded replacement funds for 5 vehicles, 2 of which you'll see tonight.
Big help.
Thank you.
Are you still, when we last talked about your budget, and we gave some to some of the other departments, you said that you had enough to be able to manage until those are paid back. Are we still in that position?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to just do the next thing?
That's fine. Yeah. Yes, I believe that I can cover my local match. Well, never mind, we're not there yet. But yes, I believe I'm still in a good position.
Okay.
My
For future conditions as well as current
yes.
anticipated?
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right.
So you said we're going to see the 2 buses tonight?
So I was just gonna ask the mayor if we could move up item 7.2.
7.2, right.
Well, she's just there, it kind of dovetails nicely with this conversation
right.
once we get past this piece.
Okay.
We just need a motion to approve the transit management plan.
I'll make a motion that we approve the transit asset management plan.
And I'll second.
Motion by Jeremy, second by Carl, that we approve the transit asset management plan as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we will move on to 7.2, Sandy Transit Vehicle Replacement.
All right, thank you. So as I mentioned on page 20 of the asset management plan, which is the state's plan, we have a vehicle that needs to be replaced. These are our large category A vehicles, and I know that you guys have been through this process before, so you're aware that there's a pretty long time frame from the time that you put in for this vehicle before its delivery date. So we Gillig believes we may be able to see these by the end of 2019, which is a really fast turnaround for them. Yeah, so they did just move to a new facility, so their timeline has shortened.
So
built by Tesla?
It used to be 18 to 24 months, and now they're saying it's more 12 to 16 months.
Will we get the camera still, that we can watch the progress of our bus?
Yes, I actually,
Oh, cool.
yes, so, so you do have someone, and Gillig as well, will follow your bus and send you pictures as your bus is in production. It actually takes about 2 weeks for your bus to make it through the entire production, and you do have someone that's auditing the process the entire time because they're a big ticket item. And yes.
So it takes 2 weeks to build, but it's the year we have to wait in line for
Exactly.
everybody.
It's the production date.
else, yeah.
Yep.
So the ones we're replacing have 577,000 miles on them and 416,000.
Yes.
We've run the wheels off them, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yes.
Got our
And that
use
is
out of it.
actually why we purchased this particular size of a vehicle. We do put a lot of miles on our buses. We usually hit those miles before we hit the years that are listed. Gilligs are, and I'm actually having here to replace a 2008 Gillig, which is the one with 577,000 miles currently, or at the end of November. As well as a 2010 Eldorado National Easy Rider 2. That one is the one that I have been reporting on as poor or marginal for a while now. It's just not as sturdy a bus as the 2008 Gillig, so it really needs replacement sooner rather than later.
So we're gonna stick with the Gillig as much as possible into the future, seeing as how they hold up better.
Preferably,
Mhm.
yes.
That's good.
How many miles does a typical TriMet bus get in their same period? I mean, are we
I
driving the
couldn't
same, I
tell
mean, we're
you.
constantly driving them, okay.
There's a lot of factors that go into that. You can make different choices on what you do with your inventory, such as we could take funds and overhaul this vehicle, which means that we replace the engine and the transmission. When you do that, you're then doubling the useful life again. So you're taking them, and if we had shorter routes, I might do that. And I know some agencies do that when you have a nice vehicle and you can just keep your price low by overhauling it. I wouldn't recommend it for our particular vehicles because of the use that we put on them and the long routes. We also have some fairly steep grades that TriMet doesn't necessarily have, depending on where their route is located.
Like Timberland Lodge.
Well, the engine and transmission are only two of the components
Right.
within that
Right.
coat, within that
Right.
bus. There are a lot of other components that have exhibit wear and tear, and your maintenance in the second half of your rejuvenated life is going to be significantly increased.
Agreed,
Right.
agreed. If you can find the funding, I believe that is the most efficient use of our funds.
Forgive me my question, but what happens to these buses as they've aged out? Is there a buyer? Do they park it somewhere in a back parking lot?
So in general, we surplus them, which means we sell them. We don't get a great return. We currently have a 2008 Gillig that we surplused. I have held on to it because I had thoughts of turning it into an electric vehicle. However, we demoed an electric vehicle and the technology is just not there for our particular transit service at this time, so I've changed my mind and backed off of that for now. We usually put it through a public bidding process.
I noticed that you're procuring it through the Washington State contract. Does that take the place of a public bidding process then?
It does, and actually, when we use grant funds, we are required to use the Oregon State contract. However, Gillig is not on the Oregon State contract, and with the bigger buses, you can choose and ODOT has given us the yes, that they agree that we should buy Gilligs and replace our buses with Gilligs. And so we've been given permission to purchase them from Washington, which has an agreement with Oregon.
Thanks.
Well, I want to say I appreciate your grant writing skills, as you've done remarkably well since you've been in your position, and have saved the city a lot of tax dollars. Thank you.
Agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can we photocopy
You're a
you?
rock star.
Put you around the city a little more?
Well, I think Julie taught you well, because she was very good at that as well.
She is a fantastic teacher and mentor.
All right.
So we need
Any more questions, discussion, motions?
I would move that we make the purchase as suggested by staff.
I'd second.
Okay, motion by Jan, second by Scott, that we allow transit staff to procure two 35-foot low-floor, heavy-duty diesel Gilligs from the Washington State contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, and we back up a little here. Declaration of council vacancy.
Yes, Mayor, Counselor Jean Kubik was appointed to seat 6 on May 29th. She has attended less than 50% of the workshops and meetings, and our charter, section 32, allows for council to declare a vacancy of that seat for her lack of participation and communication. Just so council's aware, I know that Mayor King reached out multiple times by phone and email. I've reached out multiple times by phone, email, and sent a letter as well, letting her know about tonight's meeting and the possible declaration of vacancy, to give her the opportunity to come and explain her circumstances. I did not receive any response to that letter. So it's my recommendation that council just declare the seat vacant at this time, and then we can move immediately to do an appointment.
We'll make a motion to declare seat 6 vacant, direct staff to move, to bring applicants before council for a new appointment.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Jeremy, that we declare seat 6 vacant and direct staff to move to bring applicants before council for a new appointment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we know when that process will start?
As soon as
Immediate.
staff can, probably right after the first of the year, after the holidays.
Great,
We'll get right on it, though.
thank you.
Or
Okay.
Jordan can.
Up now, a
Can I hear
new
louder?
wastewater treatment and water plant operations contract.
So, as you will recall, staff was asked to explore options regarding our wastewater treatment operating system contractor. I reached out to Veolia, and they were interested in helping us out. We also, on the advice of council, sent out a letter asking if there were any other vendors out there that were interested in providing the service. There were no other responses other than Veolia. They substantially held to their original proposal, minus we did change the scope of work, which added a little bit of extra money to the situation. I want to commend Ashley Driscoll with BEH. She worked tirelessly through chronic version fatigue, back and forth with versions of this contract between them and us, just trying to get all the nuances right. You'll notice that you had a packet on your station when you got here. The placeholder that I used was the red line version of the contract. There were a few minor edits they still were working on. So I left you a clean copy, and that there's no substantive changes. It was all legalese and appendix and things that they, just contract language that they really like for us to have in our contracts that weren't standard with Veolia, but they were all benefiting Sandy. So what you have in front of you is what will be signed if this agreement is approved. I'd also like to point out that Melissa Sandoval, the local vice president of Veolia, is in the audience tonight and came in support of this as well. I don't know if you have any questions for Melissa. I put her on the spot, sorry. She's been really great to work with, as has the entire staff there. She's very supportive in trying to make it work as best that they can for us to benefit us. So this is a two-prong thing. I would like permission to sign the contract with Veolia, and I would also like you to make a motion to terminate the agreement with CH2M, Jacobs, OMI, whatever they are today, and move forward with this process before I go.
I think council's been looking forward to this day, and I know I have.
Absolutely.
I would hope that we're making an improvement in our OMI services, and look forward to 5 years or better of happy relationship.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to terminate the agreement with Jacobs and issue a 90-day notice of intent to terminate, and authorize the city manager to sign the contract with Veolia North America.
I'll second that.
Motion by John, second by Scott, that we terminate the agreement with Jacobs and issue a 90-day notice of intent to terminate, and to authorize the city manager to sign the contract with Veolia North America. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I think I heard a mouse. Motion carries. All right, we are to
Good work putting all that together, too.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Really, it was Ashley doing the heavy lifting.
Well, thank Ashley for
I
us.
just agreed a lot. No, that sounds good. Yeah.
Thank Ashley for us, David.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
Consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second that.
Motion by John, second by Jeremy, that we approve the consent agenda as written. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City managers' reports.
I have two things. One is we received a letter from Barry Elsner and Hammond. This year, rather than traditional gifts of food and treats, they have made a donation on our name to HEAT. It was formerly HEAT. It's now the Oregon Energy Fund to assist people with energy assistance program.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Great.
nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Classy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The Arts Commission had their second meeting, and Adam Triplett is the chair of that commission now, and Marcia Morrow will be the co-chair. They're working diligently to finish up their bylaws and mission statements, and they're almost complete. And they're starting to talk about art. So we're getting past the work and moving forward. And that is all I have, other than thank you.
Great, thank you. Committee reports. Carl?
None at this time.
Ken?
None.
None?
John? Jeremy?
No, the Parks Committee will be meeting this Wednesday.
Okay. Well, how about council reports then?
I don't have any.
Okay. Scott?
No, but I have a small statement.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the city and the council and the community of Sandy for the opportunity to serve as a councilman here. It's been a tremendous honor and a privilege and a personal joy to see the workings of our city. Additionally, I'd like to point out what a fine group of leaders that we have for the city. I really look forward to a very bright future. I'd like to thank you all for your service and dedication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing to report.
Jen?
No.
Carl?
Without getting too emotional, I'd like to say thank you to Bill. Appreciate you as this is your last night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a privilege. I want to say publicly, I really appreciate your 8 years. You and I started the first time?
Same time.
Same time. And you have hair. I appreciate that. There must have been something in the water.
It's called C4.
It's starting to get the same color as yours, though.
But seriously,
Don't sign up for C4 if you want to keep your hair.
Seriously, I appreciate your leadership and the way you've pulled us through all these last 8 years. It's been some good times, some wild times, and some exciting times. And here we are, still alive.
Yep.
Still afloat. And I also want to say the same thing to Kim.
Thank you.
It's your last night, right? For council. And appreciate all the leadership you provided that. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to know you guys.
Thank you. Same at you.
I'm done.
All right. Well, I'll try to do this without getting emotional, too. To the Sandy residents for their faith and trust in me for the last 8 years, it's been an honor and a privilege, and I thank you. Staff, your hard work has made life for me much easier, and I couldn't be more proud of you all. Thank you, especially Kim.
Thank you.
Council, your diverse outlook and passion for the city has helped more than I can say. I'm honored to have served with each and every one of you. Thank you for your support and friendship. And to my wife, who has supported me through all the meetings, the conferences, the classes, the ribbon cuttings, et cetera, that I have attended, and I've left her alone to deal with family functions and time away from her. She's been my rock, and I love her. I look forward to what the new year brings and wish you all the best for the City Council, for all the challenges that you will be facing, and I know and believe you will as a group be successful for Sandy. So God bless you all. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too.
Thank you. And for any of the staff or council who hasn't already signed the book that staff and Kim and my wife helped put together for me as a memento for my time served here, please, before you leave, I have a pen and there's a place for you to sign. If you'd like to leave a little note, that's great. And with that, my final gavel down.
You bent it.
Broke it. It was already bent. Now, no whining. No whining. Oh, yes.